Democrats currently have a 5-alarm fire on their hands. We covered a poll the other day. Young people are like, I'm done with you. Bernie has a plus 12 approval rating. Everybody else is barely treading water. Biden was like plus 2. The young people are a democratic necessity. You have to win young people and in big numbers in order to win elections. Well, they can't. Bernie is the only one who can, plus 12 with young people. Biden's at plus 2. Kamala's underwater. Pete's underwater. So Democrats are in trouble. They lost their base in that respect. You know who else they're losing that was a strong part of the base? Hispanics. So, having said that, there's this new poll that just came out in Politico. Take a look at this. Only 2% of those polled referred to themselves as Latinx, while 68% call themselves Hispanic and 21% favored Latino or Latina to describe their ethnic background, according to the survey from Bendixen and Amandi International, a top Democratic firm specializing in Latino outreach. More problematic for Democrats, get this, 40% said Latinx bothers or offends them to some degree, and 30% said they would be less likely to support a politician or organization that uses the term. At a time when Republicans appear to be making inroads among Latino voters, the survey results raise questions about how effectively the party is communicating with them, according to pollster Bendixen Amandi and other Democrats and Latino vote experts. Quote, the numbers suggest that using Latinx is a violation of the political Hippocratic Oath, which is to first do no electoral harm, said Amandi, whose firm advised Barack Obama's successful Hispanic outreach nationwide in his 2 presidential campaigns. Why are we using a word that is preferred by only 2%, but offends as many as 40% of those voters we want to win? Look, here's what's going on here. Democrats do not have a substantive policy outreach program. They can't say to Latino voters, here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise wages. We're going to give you health care. We're going to cut another stimulus check. We're going to have an economic agenda that's going to improve your life. That's why you need to vote for us. They can't say those things because they're not in favor of those things. They're a neoliberal party in favor of crumbs. And so, since they feel like they can't reach out that way and craft campaigns that way, because they have to appease their donors first and foremost, what do? They lean into identity claptrap. They do. And only 2% of Hispanics are like, I like Latinx and I use Latinx. 30% are like, if you dare say that, I don't think I'm going to vote for you. And 40% are offended by it. People got mad at me on Twitter when I said the other day, that we need a Democrat who's a New Deal Democrat, committed to ending the wars and committed to a social democratic agenda, but the Democrat can't be stupid ultra woke. There's a reason I say that. You cannot win being, quote, stupid ultra woke, end quote. People do not agree with you. This is elite academic language. This is the stuff that comes out of academia, and academia is culturally detached from the rest of America. It's just a fact, and now it's shown in the numbers. I learned the other day that BIPOC, BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color. I learned the other day that, because I had seen that every now and then before, there was one group that came up with it. And then the media and everybody in elite circles started using it. That's not even the way language works. You can't just say, I have a group, we made it up, and now all you better use it or you're racist. What? And that's effectively what happened. So, and by the way, that there's also another issue with that term. It is literally the oppression Olympics. There's supposed to be a hierarchy built around it. So Black Indigenous People of Color. So in other words, supposed to say Black and Indigenous people are at the top of the hierarchy of oppression because they've had it worse. And other people of color are, below them in the hierarchy of oppression. You really want to start playing this game? It's also short-sighted and very America-centric, too, because, if you're in Turkey, the Armenians are the people who've had it worst. How do we account for that? How do we account for, I watched a documentary on albino populations in Africa, and they have it worse. There's ethnic minorities in China who have it worse. So how do you account for that in your in your order. And also, look, it's debatable as to who had it worse, black people or indigenous people. Isn't there an argument for IBPOC and not BIPOC because indigenous people were genocided in this country? I mean, once you open this door, there is no end to the insanity. You can just debate all this stuff until you're blue in the face, and the entire time losing voters. Yeah, again, I hate to bring it up again, but I have to. Defund the police polls at 18%. We're seriously having debates about whether or not to keep using that slogan. I don't care what you think of the policy. The policy, when it's explained, is actually perfectly reasonable. Police budgets are gargantuan. Cut the police budgets in half. You still have plenty to deal with the actual law enforcement. Great. And then the other 50% can go to social work and helping people with mental health crises and things of that nature. That's a perfectly reasonable policy. Why would you slap a logo on that makes it the least appealing policy to the overwhelming majority of Americans? You do that if you want to virtue signal to your insular subgroup. You don't do that if you want to win and actually gain power and enact these policies. I've used this example before, but it's like instead of Bernie Sanders calling universal healthcare Medicare for all, he could have said, I want a full socialist government takeover of healthcare. And that would have been pretty fucking pure from a lefty perspective, where we all would have been like, true, I like that. But that shit also would have polled at like 30%, whereas Medicare for all polls at like 60 or 70%. Guys, when you are doing politics, you lead with your most popular foot. You lead with your best foot. You try to expand the tent to get more voters to win to then enact the policy. You don't do the least popular shit you can do and then think it's going to help you. I'm begging everybody, don't die on this hill. Don't die on the Latinx hill. The numbers could not be more clear. And Hispanic people themselves are like, don't do it. We don't agree with you. So if you are disagreeing with the overwhelming majority of Hispanic people and you are telling them what's good for them, are you the bigot? Now, I don't actually mean that because people can have disagreements on, which terminology to use. But if we're using the same sort of shitty shortcut arguments that they use, that is an argument that we would make with a straight face. Over time, there has been more and more of a cultural disconnect from Democratic elites. With the American people. And I don't know where they got the idea that this stuff is popular, this stuff will win elections, this stuff makes them holier than thou. It really doesn't. It just makes you dumber. Like, you just look stupid. And to have these endless debates and conversations over the language, as opposed to doing the most obvious thing and just calling them what they want to be called, well, there are consequences to that. So I give you all of that. I tell you all of that to then tell you this. There's a new poll that just came out. I saw it right before I came on air here. It is incredible. New polling from the Wall Street Journal. Get this. In a hypothetical rematch between President Biden and former President Trump, Biden gets 44% from Hispanic voters and Trump gets 43%. This is supposed to be Democrats 70 or 80%, Republicans 30 or 20. Now, it's almost dead tied. By the way, when you talk to Hispanic voters, I saw there was a great article about this after Trump had massively increased his vote share with Hispanics. And so, for example, Hispanics in border towns in Texas, there was a big flip to pro-Trump in those areas. Some of them cited immigration. A lot of these people are just as hardline on immigration as many white voters. But one of the things that was cited the most was actually the stimulus checks. They were like, look, I got a check with his name on it, so I voted for him. See, that's what I'm talking about. You want to win? You do shit like that. Now, look, Biden did the $1,400 checks early on, and you know what? At the time, he had a fucking 54% approval rating. Now he's down to 38%. So do you want to win back voters? Materially deliver for them. You don't virtue signal to them and use weird elite academic language. That's what you do. Give people stimulus checks. Give people health care. Give people free education. Abolish student loan debt. Actually do universal child care or universal pre-K, which now the Build Back Better bill looks dead in the water, and also those programs aren't even universal anymore. They've been watered down to the high heavens. So that's what you do. But no. My guess is they'll keep going down the road of elite academic bullshit language, and we'll keep getting polls like this, and yet again I'll be saying, I told you so, and yet again nobody will adjust course.